I know it.
Okay, I'm trying to think of the last person I had. Chris somebody.
Good afternoon and welcome to the February Murfreesboro's Historic Zoning Commission meeting. We do have a quorum, so we're able to go ahead and conduct the meeting. Everybody should have received the minutes of the last meeting held on January the 17th. Are there any necessary edits? I will pass on that there were a couple of name changes or additions and a few minor typos that I've already addressed earlier, but is there anything else that any of you all found?
So you changed Backlund for Becker? Or Becker for Backlund?
I did not get that, but I did get that Robert was not here and that Joe was.
Yes.
And we needed to add our new commission member. And then there was...
Page 7, under staff, reports and other business.
Vice Chair.
Vice Chair, I'm more than willing to give it back, but...
I did note that on page 6 that it's an existing brick row-lock instead of row-locks, so that's been corrected. So
that goes through actually to page 8 and 9, Brenda.
okay, we'll get that corrected. Are there any other necessary edits? If not, then the chair would welcome a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved?
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Good. Then those will be edited and distributed then. Joe, what is our first piece of business today?
First item on the agenda is for the property located at 330 East College Street. The property is located on the south side of East College Street, just 3 lots from the intersection of North Miami Avenue. The house was constructed circa 1920 in the vernacular 4x4 bay, front porch with Doric columnettes architecture. This house is listed as a contributing structure in the East Main Street Historic District of the National Register of Historic Places. The owner of the subject property, Mrs. McKnight, has applied to and is eligible for assistance through the city's house rehabilitation program. Mr. John Kello is in the audience. He is with the Community Development Department and is the applicant for this renovation. The primary focus of the renovations will pertain to the outside of the home, which will include replacing the roof, chimney, siding, windows, porch columns, front door, and light fixtures, as well as some parts of the brick foundation. If you look on your screen, we're going to go through the pictures that was submitted to us. The first picture shows the front of the home on East College Street. The next 2 photos show the properties on either side of the home. And then here we have the existing structural damage on the home. This is on the front of the porch. Here's the bottom of the columns. Here's the ceiling on the porch. And here's the siding on one of the sides. I believe John Kello has passed out some more pictures of the outside of the home. There's the existing 3rd story of the home. Missing light fixtures that will be replaced. The door and the door handles. And here are the samples that were submitted by Mr. John Kello of the door that they would like to replace it with. The handles, light fixture, and the windows. Mr. John Kello is in the audience, and I'll ask him to come to the podium to explain in further detail of the renovations.
Thank you, Mr. Callow. Please go over and discuss this in more detail for us. I know the board would be interested in certain of the various aspects for each item. If you'd like to talk generally about it, then we would probably I would like to recommend that we vote on each separate item instead of as a whole. I think it would be easier for us all to follow, especially for the minutes to be prepared.
Well, first of all, let me tell you this is a project I think Joe mentioned of that would be funded using our community development block grant money. And because of that, we have certain responsibilities to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. So one of the first things we do when we get a project for a house that was built before 1978, we have to do lead-based paint testing. And it's hot. It's very, very hot. Every part of that house is hot. So we have to mitigate as part of that project. What we would propose to do is this. The house was built in stages. There's the original house, and then as you look at the front view, the section, the downstairs section, as you look to your left, was added at a later time. The section above it was added at yet another time. The dormer was added about that same time, and then there is a section across the back that was added at yet another time. You'll notice that in the dormer and in the addition that is in the second floor to your left, the siding is of a different width than that in the original house and the original addition, which we're calling A1. And what we would propose to do is for the original siding, we're going to address the lead-based paint by scraping and repainting. We're proposing to replace the siding that is not of that original width, which would be in the dormer, in that section, in the second floor, on the addition to the left, with siding that matches as closely as we can the original siding. And that actually becomes cheaper than doing that is cheaper than doing the full mitigation for the lead-based paint. We are very happy to take your guidance on the back, whether you want us to go replace all that siding back there. Some of it is, well, the part that is the original house, which would be the second floor, it's someplace between 5 and 6 inches. When we put the tape on it. And then the new addition is a wider, closer to an 8-inch to 8 to 9-inch exposure on that. So again, that would be the first thing we need to address. Let's see. Replacing the roof, I gave you a two-page handout. When I was starting work on this morning, I had not seen the agenda, so I did not realize how extensive the photographic documentation was going to be. But in that very last picture down, that's the bathroom, the second floor bathroom. We've had extensive damage within the house because of the roof. The roof is a hipped roof. We're going to have to just take it down to the decking. I suspect there'll be decking that's going to have to be replaced, and we'll bring it back out with a new roof.
One question before we dive into each of the various items there. Is that third floor occupied then with the dormers?
It is not now. It has been. I think at one point our homeowner had 7 children living in there, so I think she had young people stashed all over that house. You can tell on the inside that the stairway to that third floor is it's not original equipment. I guess that's as good a way to put that as any. Wouldn't you say, Joe? It is not currently occupied.
But she would like to leave her options open.
I think
that's the dormer that's not original.
I don't think she's interested in having us take that dormer away.
Okay.
Now, what we are proposing to do, though, is at least make it look a little bit more like the original. The front of that dormer, the front line matches the front line of the house. So if we go back in and use the materials like we've got at the bottom, at least it'll look a little closer. We're not really suggesting that we replace the chimneys. if at all possible, we'd prefer to just repoint them. We have one that looks like it's in decent shape. We have one that looks like it's about to fall over.
Yeah.
The one on the left is that you can't really get a very good shot at because it's behind a tree, is in very poor shape.
What I'd like to do with your approval then is just to jump into each of the various items listed in the paragraph that discusses the scope of work. It says you're going to replace the roof. Are you talking about the shingles, or what are you talking about there?
I'm talking about whatever it takes to make sure that we don't have a condition show up in the inside of the house like we've got now, which, until you take the existing roof off, you don't know how much deck you're going to have to replace. But, yeah, I think we're going to have to replace some decking, and, yeah, we would come back with shingles.
But would it be an asphalt shingle? I mean, what kind of shingle is it? Is it going to match what's there? Normally we would get a sample of what the shingle is.
I have no idea. You tell me what you want. We'll do it.
It's hard for us to tell you what we want unless you're going to intend to change it, or you're going to match what's there.
We're going to do our best to match.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Could I have a few things verified before we do jump into the individual topics? Mr. Callow, once this starts, I'm really curious about once this renovation starts, is there some kind of timeline in which you hope to get this done, and how much money will be available to her?
Since it's really difficult for me to talk about the money because I've got to put this out to bid. But we've consulted with the planning department, and they feel like the money that we do have in our budget to cover it would take care of the repairs we're planning here in this first stage.
Okay.
I'm just trying to be careful because it's going to be expensive enough as it is, and I don't want to give any hints if I can get around it.
And then I had one other question that
Sure.
I didn't catch when you were talking about the addition that had been put on the back of the house, and how the siding is a different depth.
Right.
Now, is that something you said you just as soon leave that on? Or
Since that doesn't show up from the front, it's in better shape than some of the rest of the house. We definitely want to come back and make what you can see from the street compatible with the original house.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. Any questions from the board regarding the roof material?
Ordinarily, we do a 25-year roof is in our specifications.
We're just used to receiving this is what is there and this is what we intend to replace it with. So in the absence of information, I'm not sure how unless the board would like to offer comments.
Well, my thought is that we should vote on replacing the asphalt shingles as they are. But I would suggest that once they determine what they're going to use, color and type of shingle, that it's submitted to Joe, so we know what's coming on down the pike with it.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I was just going to say, it seems like at this stage, I think Mr. Callow, that's kind of what he's trying to show us what they want to do, but they're not far enough along yet.
Yeah. Here's the deal. For me to be able to commit my federal funds, I have to get approval from the State Historic Preservation Officer. State Historic Preservation Officer is telling me that they're not even interested in looking at my application until I've got a certificate of appropriateness from you guys. So that's kind of where we are.
Okay. Would you like to restate your motion just one more time, then we'll vote?
Well, I make a motion that we approve an asphalt shingle roof that as close as it can be is to the current roof, and that a sample of that is supplied to Joe when it's determined what you're going to put on the roof.
Sure.
Okay. We have a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Good, that passes. Let's talk about the chimney in more detail. You said that the one that you wanted to keep, and there was one you wanted to repoint.
Well, I want to repoint both of them if at all possible, because there's absolutely no way we're going to be able to replace 100-year brick with something that looks like 100-year brick. So we would think that it's more appropriate to maintain what we've got and get it so that it's back in working order. Well, I'm not proposing to put the chimneys back in working order. That was a misstatement. No. But we want to make them look like they're supposed to look.
And would you be willing, if you find out they're too far gone, that you come back and tell us that?
Sure.
Because in reviewing our guidelines a few years back, we decided that chimneys and dormers were a very important element that we didn't want to lose. So I'm glad to hear that you want to keep the chimneys intact. That's just a nice feature. So that's interesting. Do we have any further questions or comments from the board? So the chair would welcome a motion.
I move that the proposal to repair and keep the chimneys be approved, as well as if there is any kind of issue that you do come back and let us know.
Sure.
I'll second that.
We have a second. Any further discussion? In that case, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? That one passes. Let's talk about the siding again on the house. I think because there's so many different types of siding,
Right.
I'd like to fully understand the intent.
I don't know what more I can tell you except that the siding on the original house is what we want to appear on all sides that you can see from the street, which means that up there in the dormer and the second floor on the addition on your left, the front and the side, we would pull that replacement siding and replace it with something that has the exposure like in the original house.
And the third floor dormer itself, although it's 8 inches, will you put the smaller exposure?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If you'll notice on the picture that I gave you, there is siding damage underneath that window. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to have to address siding regardless. So if we're going to address siding, we might as well fix it with the right stuff instead of something that looks weird.
And are you going
It looks weird to me. I'm not the architect, but
are you going to replace the siding with the same material, which is wood?
correct.
Do you know if when the dormer was built?
My guess is that she bought the house in 1972, so it was probably about 1974.
I will say I work with the State Historic Preservation Officer a lot, and they don't like to make something look old when it's actually new. And so they may want that siding to be different than the main house in its exposure, because you'd be creating a false history that it's old and it's not.
Well, of course, the real history would be to take it out altogether.
That's why I brought it up earlier, yeah.
But if you look at it, if you get in that front yard and look up at that thing, I'll do what you guys want. But I'm thinking that the best way is to make it look like the rest of the house, because that wall is flat,
Yeah.
Up to that roof line.
Yeah. Any further questions or comments from the board?
I don't know. So, Jim, are you, in your mind, you're thinking, let's stick with a 3-inch or 5-inch siding on the addition, that A1 addition?
I don't like it personally myself, but I would make the dormer siding different, because it's a non-original feature and it's a non-original siding. So if you put the 6-inch on it, it will look old. And I think if he were to explain that to the State Historic Preservation Officer, he would say that's false history. Okay. And we should do it differently, whether you paint it differently. But because it's in the same plane, you can't paint it differently in my mind.
Right.
So although I think it will look extremely odd to have 6 to then 8,
Yeah.
I think it's telling the public that it is a change.
I mean, that house is so large, I don't see the siding being different. I don't see it being an eyesore, is my point, I guess. We know it was an addition, like you said.
I have one question is, what would the Secretary of Interior standards say? I mean, I understand what you're saying, but is that actually written in the Secretary of Interior guidelines? I mean, I know they'd like additions to be different, but I don't know that it would be a significant issue in this case.
I think we could vote however we feel appropriate, and we could just leave it up to the State Historic Preservation Officer to make the final decision.
Yeah.
But I think it should be brought up to him.
Well, I'll make a motion on the siding that we approve it as submitted, and that if it is requested to be changed when it gets up to the federal, is it state? I'm sorry,
State, yeah.
that we're made aware of that.
I would just ask to amend your motion to say wood siding.
Yes, and the siding that's to be replaced would be of wood material to match the original house.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of going with the motion of the wood siding, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion is approved. Let's talk about the porch columns in a little more detail, if you could, please.
Well, you've seen what the bases look like. And the lead-based paint report comes back and says they are hot. I'm not sure that you necessarily have to replace all of the siding, all of the columns, but you certainly have to replace the bases. They've rotted.
It would be my hope that you can just replace the bases with some kind of material.
Well, we're going to. It's not like we have unlimited capital to work. So whenever we can save, that's certainly something we're going to do. And I have absolutely no problem just replacing the bases, because I think that is a place where we can do have some savings.
I think one of the issues that's causing them to rot is that there's no gutter or downspout on that porch, and so it's the water's coming down to the concrete where the wood sits,
Sure.
the columns stand on. Be nice if there were gutter and downspout to help mitigate that.
But the house has never had them.
Well, but it means it's just going to continue to rot unless you pick the right material.
Well, I do gutters and downspouts every day on housing rehab projects, so we have no problem with that. If you could give me some recommendations on what that should look like, we're certainly happy to entertain them.
What other questions does the board have? If not, the chair would welcome a motion on this particular item, the porch columns.
I move to approve replacing the bases of the columns with an appropriate material.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor then of just replacing the bases of the porch columns, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question with that. So are you wanting him also to have gutters on the home as well?
That wasn't part of the motions.
Okay,
I
so
can't make a
it's
motion, so that's
okay.
if he'd like. I'm just pointing out that if you don't have them, the water's going to hit the columns and the bases, and it's going to rot. So he may be coming back to us sooner or later for more bases to be replaced. Front door, then, could you describe that in a little more detail? We have a drawing that's being submitted. Could you tell us the material?
The existing front door, it's actually two doors, and they're both wood with glass, and we will replace with wood and glass as close as we can get to the original. Those are probably going to have to be handcrafted, just like the windows. When we get to the windows, those are all going to have to be custom made. So I would expect the door to be custom made as well. There is a
Transom?
transom up above. We would propose to leave that transom in place. We've also got lead issues there, but I think that it's too important. We can mitigate the lead cheaper than we can get a new one built in that case.
Oh, in our packet, we have a picture of a door, Genwell, Jailwin doors. I noticed that the glass in that is taller. Since you said it would be a custom door, are you able to match the door that has a slightly shorter piece of glass and a deeper panel below?
You mean in the...
I mean, this packet here that has this picture, the glass is
Right.
taller than on the existing door.
Our plan is, he wanted a picture of what it could look like. Our plan is to have the doors replaced with as close to a match as possible.
Okay, in wood.
Exactly, absolutely.
I have one question. Are the doors beyond repair? Is it impossible to repair them?
One of them probably is.
Yeah.
And so also you have some issues with
Squareness.
Yeah. So what the way or rectangularness, I guess. In this case. But our experience has been when we get a situation like this, we're better off just pulling out the old units and replacing it with a pre-hung unit, which is what this would become.
Not on our list, but since we're in that area, there's a picture of the ceiling of the front porch, and there's a piece of plywood, it appears, hanging down, probably because there's a roof leak.
Yep.
Can you tell us, describe what the work will be in that ceiling?
We will take out the bad part and replace it and repaint.
So it'll be another piece of plywood?
Oh, sure.
I don't know if you put beadboard up or what.
No, we're going to go with whatever. We will go back with materials that are equivalent whenever possible. And I think that's going to be the only place where we're going to have trouble with going back with materials that are just like is in the back, or is actually the back section on the that would be the east side of the house. So the foundation of the original house is brick. The foundation for the addition on the left is concrete block until you get back to the third addition, and what is covering the crawl space right back there. And I think you can see this a little bit in my picture. If you go to the second page, and that's more like a masonite. That is, it's red masonite that has been embossed, and you get to the back, and there's a whole section that's missing. I don't think I can find embossed red masonite.
And there's probably a reason.
Exactly. And fortunately, that part of it you can't see from the street. But there is that section, and it's about a 7-foot section from the end of Addition A to the rear of the house. And I don't know quite what to tell you about that. Right now, the crawl space, there's a crawl space that's covered up by a sheet of masonite.
We started this conversation just this time on the ceiling there. The chair would welcome a motion on the ceiling being replaced with a piece of plywood.
I'd so move to allow that.
Do we have
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I think there's one last thing in that. Well, two last things in that area. There's the handles of the doors and the lights.
And the doors themselves.
Oh, and the doors themselves. You're right, of course. The chair would welcome a motion then on the doors themselves.
Approved as submitted.
we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, further discussion, then we'll wrap this up hopefully here. The porch lights and the door hardware, let's do that together. Any questions or comments?
No.
The only thing that I noticed was that the light is submitted, the existing light is brass. I would suspect it was never brass.
No.
But it appears that you have a hobnail or obscure glass for the light. Can you get a clear glass?
I could not find in all the images that I pulled up one that looked exactly like what was there. But the whole idea is that we will get as close to what's there as we can.
Yeah. I think an important...
He actually swears that the top of the other unit is back in the garage, and I believe it because there's a lot of stuff back in that garage.
I think the thing for me, the biggest item would be to get clear glass instead of the obscure glass.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Any further questions about the door handle or the lighting fixture?
No.
If not, the chair would welcome a motion on both of those items together.
Make a motion. We approve the door handles as submitted and the side lights with the qualification of having clear glass in them.
Do we have a second?
Second?
Any further discussion? If not, please say aye if you're in favor. Aye. Those opposed? Let's see, front door light fixtures in some parts. So let's talk about the brick foundation. What are you planning to do there? Just re-brick it, repoint it?
Repoint it as needed. We on the two-page handout that I gave you, down at the there's a red circle down towards the left foundation. We have a situation where the foundation has kind of split, so we do know that we're going to have to go in and do some work. The concrete block foundation appears to me to be in pretty good shape.
Good.
So I think we need to go back and get that crack that we that I pointed out there at the bottom. But then part of that is dealing with that porch. And would you say, Joe, that stucco that is kind of pretty much come off there on the edge of the porch steps? Yeah, there we go.
Cheek walls?
Yeah, So our plan would be to get that cleaned up and go back with the stucco look, since that was the original. And the other side actually doesn't look that good.
Any further questions from the board?
Did we address the windows?
We can do that next. Any further questions on this particular item, the repairs to the foundation? If not, the chair would welcome a motion on this particular item.
Make a motion. It's approved as submitted.
We have a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? In the absence of that, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? And I think the last item is the windows?
I think so.
Okay. Could you explain to us what you intend to do in the windows?
Yeah. You can see some of the pictures of the windows, and you've probably seen some of the best ones. We've got some windows that don't even have glass. There's at least one on the west side that doesn't even have glass in it anymore. It's visqueen. And we've got windows from several different eras. We've got some windows that have storm windows on top. It's a total hodgepodge, and of course, every single one of them is a lead-based paint generating machine. Not only the paint, but every time it goes up or down, you're developing the lead-based paint dust. Our experience has been the easiest way to mitigate windows that have lead is to replace the windows. We would replace them with wood windows, and we would suggest using the double panes for the because that's a part of what HUD wants me to do. They want me to try and increase energy efficiency whenever we do a project. So that helps me sell this a little bit better to HUD too. If I can say, yeah, we're going with double pane windows, and what that would also do is keep the homeowner from having to come back and put storm windows back up. I think we can, as part of our lead-based paint inspection, I knew this was something that we were going to have to address. So I had our inspector do a little bit of a lot sharper pencil. He usually gives us an estimate of the work, and in this case, I had him look into replacement windows, and they are within our budget to get the windows looking the right way. And so we would replace all the windows in the house, except for that transom over the front door.
Any comments from the board?
A couple of questions. How much trouble would it be to repair the windows and use the existing?
Well, some of them can't be repaired.
How about those that could be?
For the sake of uniformity, we're better off replacing all of them. Particularly because the ones that could be repaired would not have the double pane, so we would lose our energy efficiency.
Has the house had storm windows on it in the past?
If you look at your picture, there are I can see 4 of them in the front.
And they were added at some point. And storm windows have as good a energy efficiency as do double paned windows.
But I'm not prepared to put storm windows on all those windows. So a better use of our money is to go with double pane replacements.
Because of cost, you mean?
Yes.
So, from a historic point of view, the other alternative is better.
Well, I guarantee you, not one of those storm windows that was on that house though when it was built in 1920.
Right.
Although she'll tell you the house wasn't built in 1920. The original house was actually built earlier, according to Ms. McKnight.
And do you know when the house was built?
I've had several different dates offered to me.
Yeah.
Anywhere from 1860 to 1880 to who knows.
Yeah.
Property assessor says, actually the property assessor says 1928, which I think was probably that first edition.
Okay.
Any further questions or comments?
Well, on the windows, he also mentioned the cost of the lead-based paint situation and trying to mitigate that.
Mm-hmm.
And
That just if you try and go in and scrape, I think it's 30 windows. Hold on a second. I'll tell you exactly how many windows it is. But the cost of going in and scraping that many windows is just it's 30 windows. That just becomes prohibitive.
So when do you think the storm windows were added to the house?
Those look to me like they were probably added in the mid-'70s, late '70s.
Yeah.
The ones that are there. I think that she added them, and like I said, she bought the house in '72.
Would you be able to match the style and shape of the historic windows?
Sure.
Are all the windows 1/1?
Mm-hmm. Except there is one window in the east wall, which is not. And
Do you believe it then to be a replacement sash?
do I now?
Do you then believe it to be a replacement sash because it's not the same?
That's in that first edition, and what it is
Is it on the side of the house, did you say?
yeah, back in the back.
Maybe it used to be a
I
low
don't have a
window or
picture of it.
something. Think?
And that one is, let's see.
We don't have a picture of that one, do we? Don't.
While Mr. Callow is looking through that for that information, I understand and agree with you. The State Historic Preservation Officer is very interested in trying to keep as much of the original windows and rebuild them where possible. Since he has to go before them to get approval, no matter what we decide, he will be the final judge of this. But typically, windows are a real big deal with preservationists. They don't like you just throwing them away. And typically, they're built of old-growth wood, and they last actually longer than the new wood windows.
I don't know, from the pictures I see, those windows are pretty far gone.
I would agree a lot of
We're not going to do the project if we can't replace the windows. It's that simple.
Well, ultimately, it will come down to State Historic Preservation.
Well, and I'll tell him the same.
That's fine. You have every right to. Is there any further discussion? The chair would welcome then a motion on replacing the windows. Please.
I make a motion to accept the proposals presented by Mr. Callow on the windows.
Do we have
Second?
any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Is there anything else in this particular project that you need to bring up to us?
It's going to be the most expensive housing rehab project that we've ever accomplished, that's not even wishful thinking. It'll be certainly the most extensive, complicated project we've ever undertaken, and I think that if we don't undertake it, we run a real danger of losing this particular property as part of the stock of the register district.
Thank you for your efforts.
I just, one last question. I noticed that there's window air conditioning in the unit. Are you guys going to stick with that or try to put?
I'm going to try and talk her into taking them out. But that becomes a homeowner's choice, not mine. But see, that's another advantage to the double pane windows. We've already started this project. Back in November, we discovered she had no heat, so we replaced the HVAC unit, and so it's already, and that was done as an emergency repair, and so we're hoping that with the new windows and whatever else we can do in building in energy efficiencies with the rest of the project, that we can maybe put the house in such a shape she won't need the window units. I hope that's not wishful thinking.
Just
And Linda, you had a
Yeah,
question.
I was wondering, do you need us to discuss the fascia or the eaves before you go back to your?
I would just tell you that when they are in disrepair, we will repair them using like an equivalent materials.
Okay.
I'd say that I think Linda and David and I all live within a block of that house, and so we're happy you're improving the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It's a real challenge. Let me tell you, I've been playing paper dolls, and I got pictures and drawings, and we put a lot of time into this one, and I can't wait to see what we come out with at the end.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Good,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
So does that mean y'all are going to issue my certificate of appropriateness? That's what I need for the SHPO.
all the motions have carried, I suspect that we will.
Okay, thank you. That's what I need. Thank you very much.
Joe, what is our next piece of business today?
The next item here is for 205 North University Street. This property is located on the northwest corner of East College Street and North University Street, with the front of the home actually facing North University Street. The house was constructed circa 1940 in the colonial revival with a gabled roof architecture. This house is not a contributing structure in the East Main Street Historic District of the National Register of Historic Places. As you recall, in January of 2017, the Historic Zoning Commission approved the applicant's request to remove the existing balcony on the roof of the sunroom and replace the balcony door with windows. Due to unforeseen circumstances, the applicants have decided that they would like to replace all of the windows on the home so that all of the windows will match. The original windows are made of wood, and the material of the proposed windows are made of vinyl. The photographs on the computer here show the front of the home as facing North University Street. And here are the two houses that face on either side of the home. These are pictures that were submitted by the applicant. These show the exterior views of the current windows and conditions. And here we have pictures of the inside of the house of why they are going to be replacing the windows due to rot and mold. Here are the examples of the windows that they are proposing to put in its place. The applicants are in the audience, and I would like to invite them to the lectern to discuss in further detail with what they're proposing.
Well, our plan all along is to bring the home back to its glory. That's why in the first phase we wanted to remove the deck, which was not original. And we've done that, and we're very pleased with how that looks. It's nice sitting over in the university parking lot or college parking lot and looking at it and seeing the way that it was. What we're proposing to do is replace the windows, excluding the sunroom windows, which are newer windows and really don't match the rest of the house, with 6/6. There's a couple of windows on the side that are hidden by another house that are not 6/6. They're all multi-pane, smaller. The windows are in various state of disrepair. We initially thought or hoped that it was something we could save, but by looking interior, we can see that the windows are truly rotten. Trying to scrape them, what we ended up doing was peeling away wood after wood after wood. So saving them wasn't really going to be an option. You can see the pictures of what they look like. Some of the windows clearly haven't been closed in years, and what the homeowner had done was to try to fill a void with tubes and tubes of clear silicon caulk, which didn't help the process and actually further contributed to the rot that you can see in the kind of the mid picture. We would propose replacing the windows with simulated divided, the grids internal and external, not internal to the glass, double pane for efficiency, vinyl for the long-lasting ability of those windows. They would be white, they would be 6/6, and the few windows that are not 6/6 on the side, we would still get a match for those windows. So.
They'd all be custom made.
Yeah, they all will be custom made. And we want to do them all. There might be a window that we could save, but again, we want them all to match. This must be the 30 window day because there are 30 windows we need to replace. Not counting, again, we're not doing the sunroom windows because they're fine the way they are.
Any additional information? You have a gentleman standing behind you.
He's here for some. Lucas, our contractor, Lucas Neely here, we so appreciate, has done a lot of research on this, and he's actually presented some pictures that I'm happy to just pass around to all of you. And you've got some additional copies?
Just
Oh,
copies.
thank you. Okay. Here are some copies.
We'll share it.
Share.
Would vinyl windows, I didn't even know all this, versus wood windows, there's a lot of information there. And then in the back, he's attached some pictures of current homes in the area that have the vinyl windows.
So again, it's not the, new construction vinyl window with the grid in the glass. It's the two grids on.
The applied Muntins, yeah.
Exactly.
Will there be a shadow bar between the glass and where the Muntins are?
That was not our original intent, no.
You're saying no?
No.
You do realize when you stand down below and look up, you'll see the gap, and it'll look very weird.
You have to be standing and looking.
No, you can be from the ground and see the second floor of
You
the
can.
gap.
Our main focus was to try to mimic what's currently there, and that doesn't exist on the current windows. We're more than happy to do that. That's certainly not a deciding factor for us. So,
Yeah. What questions does the board have?
and if I might, I know, or I have to assume, being in a historic society, that you hear the word vinyl and it makes you want to cringe, probably. I get that. One of the things that I mentioned, and you got to kind of look at this project from a whole. When we walked into it, we knew that there might be some issues, but didn't anticipate kind of the severity of the issues that we've run into. The brick mold, even if we wanted to, going back to what the gentleman before us said, you've got lead paint issues, you've got windows that don't open because they've been painted 4, 5, 6, 7 times. They look awful no matter what in their current state. But the brick mold is not even, it's degraded so bad that you wouldn't be able to scrape or salvage what's there regardless. One of the main reasons we wanted to go with vinyl was kind of twofold. The brick mortar has degraded over time too. There's parts of the brick, if you look at all the brickwork on the house, we don't know if there's going to continue to be water intrusion. At this point, you're looking at a couple of options. You either gut the entire thing, hope you have a friend with some money, but or you kind of, you make the best decisions you can with what you got. What we feel like is going to be the best long-term solution is to go with a PVC brick mold that's not going to be susceptible to the water damage if there is any kind of intrusion based on the mortar joints or any other issues that might occur. But it's just a better long-term solution. But we think that with the grids being external, that will, from the road, most people are never going to know. But it might make you guys lose sleep. So we're here to find out.
Anything else from you all at this time? Any questions then from the board? I would ask you myself, it appears the upper sash themselves are in better shape than the lower sash.
That's not the case. I mean, it's going back to Dan's comment.
In fact, there's a picture in there that has the silicon, and it's the upper sash that has the dry rot.
My first instinct would be to replace sashes only. If I thought that was a viable option, that's what we would do.
Well, it's just that it's my experience that the upper sash tend to, because they shed the water and the water sits on the seal, and from what I understand, the mold is that your seal probably has been cracked over time and poorly maintained, and so the water's coming in and creating mold. So the seal is a problem.
The seal is a problem.
And the lower rail, typically on the lower sash, is usually the problem too. Otherwise, the upper parts have less degree of severity of deterioration. So what is your plans? Okay, you talked about the window. What is the seal going to be made out of?
The seal, matter of fact, if you look at those windows, all the lower windows, and I believe the upper windows as well, all have a concrete sill. And that's something we discussed on our first visit to you guys back in January, is duplicating on the new window where the door currently exists above the old deck, is duplicating that concrete sash with a pitch to shed water off, similar to what's currently on the rest of the home.
Do you intend to put back the brick mold?
Yes, all new brick mold.
All new brick mold to match the existing brick mold?
You're correct, yes. The profile, if we're able to get the exact same profile, will match what's currently on the home. But the brick mold itself, has been subject to water intrusion over years. Those windows, in my opinion, are likely original. They're in rough shape. They haven't been maintained over the years. The caulking on the side of the brick mold hasn't been kept up. I mean, you've just got major deterioration on every aspect of those windows. So we're looking at a total replacement.
Well, indeed, you're right that historic preservation groups don't like replacing wood windows with vinyl or anything. Even I looked again in our guidelines today, and we typically like to see wood windows go back where there are wood windows, and we don't even like the metal cover. The metal covered clad windows tend to get moisture behind them and rot those out too, so those are really not a good way either. We have always, or I would say this, I think in my history, that the vinyl windows we have not approved in the past, just because it's a foreign element to an historic house. It's not original.
If I might add, one of the last things that I mentioned on the paperwork, and ultimately, obviously, I defer to your judgment, but one of the last things that I added is if you look back at the history of home building in general, things advanced, technology advances. It causes codes to change. It causes different materials to be used. It causes a wide variety of things to alter over the course of time. If you look at knob and tube wiring, we no longer use that. We use Romex. If you look at plaster, it's no longer a viable option with the lath underneath. We use drywall. We insulate the exterior walls of our homes. We just do so many things that are different because technology is advanced and allows us to do that. And we're hoping that you guys might view the vinyl windows as one of these technology advancements that is more efficient, for the home in general, longer lasting, and thus, maintaining the appearance of the home for a much longer period of time than wood windows, which will always degrade, similar to what you see on a lot of the historic homes.
Just a question: Did you price out the cost of wooden windows?
I priced out everything. I priced out the cost of wood windows. I priced out the aluminum clad windows. Similar again to the gentleman that came before me. All of these windows are going to be custom made. We don't have any standard sizes, so we've got some additional costs there no matter what we do.
Yeah.
But yes, we have priced it all out.
Okay.
Historically, vinyl windows used to sag over time. They would deform just because of the materials weren't that good, and fiberglass was better. Did you investigate vinyl versus fiberglass?
We can do either. I did not price out fiberglass. I didn't anticipate that being a question that was raised. That's not a standard thing that's offered. And yes, on cheaper vinyl windows, absolutely. They're terrible. They will sag. Today you can buy cheap windows that will sag. That's not our intent. Our intent is they're looking at this home as a long-term investment. They want to stay there for a long time. And honestly, I don't want my name on something that's going to look bad in 5 years. So we'll be using double pane windows and making sure that we use very good products that have a shelf life.
We put some new windows on our back porch. It never did have windows. It just had screens. And we were in the same position that you guys were, and we found out through Anderson Renewal a product that they have called Fibrex. And Fibrex is a mixture of polymer and wood. Looks like wood, paints like wood. If you want to paint it, it does come like vinyl in a white that's already, part of the window itself, but it can be repainted other colors if you need it. So we've just not had, as Jim said, I'm not sure that the new vinyl windows are not going to give you some problems in the future.
I don't want to argue that. I mean, that's subject to everyone's opinion. I would say that if you drive through downtown Murfreesboro and you look at all the homes that have wood windows, you will see that they just don't have the same appearance as the newer homes that, and I realize that new homes, when you do a tear down and you build in downtown, they're not subject to the same stipulations as historic homes. So I understand that. It's kind of hard to throw that in the mix, but you see that those windows, they just break down over time. The wood windows will not last. And I can, send you case study after case study that shows you that wood windows do not have near the shelf life that a vinyl window will.
Well, it comes down to material selected for the
Correct.
wood. It
Correct.
comes, more than anything, comes down to maintenance.
And the
And I
material
don't care what you put up there, maintenance is always a key factor to making sure anything lasts. That's
Right.
just because you build a new house doesn't mean that maintenance doesn't start the day you move in.
Oh, absolutely.
So there's never going to be the perfect answer. Even vinyl windows are not going to be the perfect
Correct.
answer. It
You're
just
absolutely
comes down to we're in a historic district, and we have not typically approved vinyl windows. I think that's the question for me, and I'm just one member. I can't make a motion, but I can vote. But I highly recommend that you get the shadow bar, because I think you will be very disappointed if you don't get that between the panes of glass to block being able to see up between the two sets of muntins on the inside and outside. I highly recommend if that is approved by this board that we do that.
Sure, absolutely. We would have no problems with
Yeah.
that.
We want, everything we're doing, we're trying to get it back to the original. We're redoing the bathrooms. We're not doing grand bathrooms. We're trying to make everything look as it did.
True to that era as possible.
Well,
Yeah.
and as we said the last time you came before us for the taking off the deck off of the sunroom there, thank you for going to this effort to make it better, because that's what we all are here for. We want to preserve the quality of this area as a showplace for the entire city. People come here just to drive down East Main and look around here because of all the beautiful homes, and so it's up to us as a board and as the individuals who own those is to try to maintain them. Otherwise, why would you have bought that house?
That's the
You could have
only
bought
reason.
somewhere else and built a new house or something else. You like this area, you like these older homes, and you wanted to preserve it, so thank you for that.
Our history of homes is 1927, 1924, and we're not sure what this is. We have a
about
picture.
20, 20.
We have a picture of it taken from the field of the women's college with somebody out there playing tennis, and the picture is in a yearbook in 1923. So we know it's
really?
before that.
Yeah.
I think the 20s are your sweet spot then.
So we know it existed in 23, and how much before that?
For that, we don't know. Yeah.
Well, I applaud you wanting to restore the house to its original material and factor. Unfortunately, vinyl windows are not original to your home. And the Nelsons, who just did a major remodel just adjacent to you, they used wood-clad windows. When we restored our home in 1998, we used Pella wood windows, and they're 19 years old, and of course we upkeep it, and there's not a sign at all of any problem with them. And like I say, another option is this Fibrex put up by Anderson Renewal.
They make other products similar to what you mentioned with Anderson Renewal. As a matter of fact, it's pretty standard through any door that you purchase. At the bottom 12 inches of that door casing is made out of a similar material, which is a no-rot material to keep you from having the issues that typical doors undergo. We're wide open to using composite materials. I think one of the things that I would hope that we would consider is where the market is right now and the requirements in order to purchase within this market, and what it would cost. Replacing a few windows with Anderson, which is one of the top two priciest window manufacturers that there are. There's Pella and there's Anderson. Great quality products, but you're looking at a $1,300 window versus a $300 window. And when you look at the cost of replacing 30 windows, that becomes a significant factor in what you can do to the rest of the home. And with them trying to, again, bring this home back alive, I would just ask that was at least considered, but I'll rest at that, I guess.
And Mr. Neal, but you did say that there are other people besides Anderson who make composite.
Yes, ma'am.
So I think that's something that you definitely should be looking into. And you also made a statement about new windows and new homes and vinyl windows, but we're not new homes. in our neighborhood.
Correct, and I
We don't want
totally,
to look like new homes.
and I respect that, which is one of the reasons why we wanted to mimic the look of the existing window. That was a major factor before we decided kind of which direction we even wanted to pursue. Again, one of the reasons why we chose the grid pattern and the type of grids that we did, so that it would look period and would look like the original windows, even if it wasn't the original windows.
Well, and the truth of the matter is composite's not original either, right?
True. You know, and the ones, well,
Yeah.
yeah.
We had a seminar, oh golly, last year at some point, and we had a gentleman who was a wealth of information from the historic.
Just the Historical Commission.
Yes, and he told us about. He explained to us about wooden windows and how nowadays they're not made with the old wood that they were back in the day, and a lot of them are pine. But he did mention some of these products, like Mr. Becker has mentioned, that he recommended far and above new pine windows. So.
And truth be told, were it not for the wood that was used when the house was originally built, we'd have far more significant issues than we have right now. Because that wood is cured, you know, we didn't have some of the rot and the structural degradation that you would typically expect with newer pine lumber. It's kind of like old barn framing. That wood will last forever. So, you know, on that aspect, we were fortunate.
Everybody's grabbing it up.
Yes.
What further comments or questions does the board have?
What did we do with the house on, he presented some pictures of homes, and they were all wood windows on those homes that were,
No, sir. They were all vinyl windows.
they were all vinyl windows?
Correct. One is actually, I included the wrong picture in here. One is actually aluminum clad. The 490 College Street, I believe, is an aluminum clad window. But the rest are all vinyl windows, 100% vinyl windows, yeah.
One of the things that we look at is the area of the house that's visible from the street.
Mm-hmm.
And so the house is on the corner, so you've got a lot that's visible from the street. I don't think all four sides, but pretty close. And so that's something to think about too. Have you thought about phasing this project, or have you thought about using wood on a portion and phasing the project, completing it later?
And
They wouldn't match, right? We want
it
to
affects resale value. It affects just so many things at that point.
We also, one of the houses that we had years ago, we started that approach, and it just became, when's the next window going to fail? And can we get a window that'll match us again?
Mm-hmm.
So we think a better way for the uniformity and look of the house is to unfortunately bite the bullet and do it.
Would the composite materials be something you would want to do?
We can certainly look into it. I think that one of the big factors it's going to come down to is price. You know, you've got things that we looked at when we visually inspected the home on multiple occasions prior to the first offer and after the counter offer. And there's some things that we anticipated as potential pitfalls, you know, so we tried to brace ourselves for those things, but there's so many things that you cannot see until you cut back that plaster, or you pull up some shoe mold, or you see where this black mold is coming in, or you poke a hole in the window. Unfortunately, people that own homes don't like us poking holes in their stuff, but once we get in there, we try to make the best of what we got.
I think did we approve a window on North Manny that was?
I'm trying to remember myself, Rick, but I think the windows in that home were vinyl.
All to begin with?
They were not.
They were not?
No.
Who was that? That was
My father, Jeff Neely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is, have we been consistent? Did we do that actually? I don't think I was at that meeting. I don't know.
I don't have the history to remember.
Joe, you working with us then.
Before my time.
We have, I think we haven't always been consistent, but I think that's one of our failings, not the homeowners. You know, I think that vinyl is not necessarily appropriate in a historic house. And I think the guidelines state that. The Secretary of Interior standards do state that. So sometimes we haven't paid as much attention to that as we should. So.
Concerning composite versus vinyl, given that composite is not wood either.
Well, the composite that I was talking about, the Fibrex, is, and I'm trying to remember the percentages, and I think it's 60% wood and 40% polymer, but in the finished product it looks like wood, and paints like wood. Vinyl does not look like wood.
No, but it
That's
can
the
be
problem.
purchased if you prefer the grain to be in the vinyl. That can be accommodated as well. But
Or the grain can show in vinyl.
I don't think it looks as good.
What is the pleasure of the board? Do we have a motion to approve the vinyl? At some point, I want to comment, if we do the vinyl, I highly recommend the brick mold going back as it is now,
Yes.
Correct.
replaced, you know,
Correct.
and the shadow bar.
Yep. We would do that.
Yes, yes, sir.
Do we have a motion to replace the windows? Or do you want to ask them to research further the composite and then come back?
Might I ask that that we consider? I don't know what happens if there was a motion to deny this request. I can tell you that we've been at a stalemate for 3 weeks, waiting to get before you guys again, and it's just costing my clients additional money at this point. So, you know, if there was any way to speed up whatever ultimate decision we need to come to, we would certainly appreciate not waiting till next month to come before you guys again.
We could have a special meeting, could we not, if need be?
What would you be willing to approve today? Because again, we're balancing two houses.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you haven't moved into this house?
No, it's vacant.
This house is vacant, so we're maintaining utilities and property taxes on two.
Jim, do you remember on the Nelson house what wood was clad with?
I don't remember it being clad, to be honest with you, but
Well, yeah, it mentions that it's wood-clad windows in the
They are wood. All windows are wood clad. The cladding is, the aluminum cladding will go outside of the wood windows. That may be,
it could be aluminum or it could be vinyl clad. I don't
Right.
know.
Well, I'd like to ask you at least get a price from Anderson and compare it to an actual cost of your vinyl.
I can absolutely give you that.
And then on the other thing I would ask is that you talk to the Nelsons next door to you on what they just replaced the windows in that house that,
Yeah, otherwise.
okay, the pool house, and get some ideas from them.
College?
I think it's called.
Yeah,
That yellow?
Yeah.
the yellow house on
Okay.
College, yes. And then when you get that information, if you would contact Joe, and we would try to get a special meeting together.
I can give it to you right now. I can forward you an email for a set of windows. I just did a home with similar size windows, and we replaced everything with Pella. And I have pricing on what the current window options are. And again, you're looking in the neighborhood of about $1,240 per window is what we paid with Pella, and you're looking at about $260 with the custom-made vinyl. But I'd be more than happy to send that to you in an email.
But I think that's the Anderson solid wood window. I think he's asking for this
No,
composite.
It wasn't.
It wasn't?
It was a clad window.
No, we're talking about the composite. The clad could be over wood, real wood, where a composite is a ground-up material.
Correct. This isn't a composite. Oh, you're saying with the composite will be more expensive than the wood. But I'll certainly send you whatever information that you guys need.
It's called Fibrex, Fibrex.
I'm familiar with it. Yes, sir.
Is that a motion then?
Yes, that'd be my motion, that we come back with that information before we make a final decision.
Yeah, I would be happy with the composite.
Do we have a
That's what you're
second for the
looking for.
motion?
Second.
Any further discussion? All,
I'm sorry, excuse me, Chairman, sir. You know, if the composite windows are going to cost, I'm looking at the bank book, are going to cost more than just pure wood windows, you know, I'm not sure that's the way to go.
At which point we'd probably go back in with just wood.
You'd have to, I would choose wood over composite because of the cost. There's a huge cost difference between vinyl and wood, and that's what we were hoping for, is to get the vinyl approved. It would look very, very appropriate. We can guarantee you that, because we won't be happy if it doesn't look very appropriate. You can ask our contractor. We are extremely picky, and
like a picky person.
I get down into the detail. You know, can you replace that shoe molding to where it looks like the original shoe molding? I don't want just that cheap stuff from Lowe's. I'm very picky, and he is too. So I just wanted to add that.
David, was that the only company you investigated that had the Fibrex?
So it would appear that if the Fibrex is going to cost more, then what we would turn and ask, would you approve wood windows?
We would approve wood windows, either wood windows or a wood-clad window.
But if the outside is clad in aluminum, it doesn't look like wood, nor less so than vinyl that can have a wood grain, correct? Or
Right.
not? Maybe I'm wrong.
If we have a true wood, let me ask you this. If we did a true wood brick mold versus a PVC or composite material in the brick mold, matching the profile of the existing brick mold, would you approve the frame, which is not visible, and the sashes to be vinyl? Is that a happy medium?
I'm trying to picture that, Jim.
I'm still just, I think in a historic house, it should have wood windows, myself. And I just think the vinyl
So,
is not
so
appropriate.
we shouldn't do a clad window either.
Yeah, really.
Right.
Because that's not going to look as good
I'm just
as
one
vinyl.
person. I don't, I give one
But
vote.
we're trying to get direction from you.
Yeah, I know.
Well, the reason, we have tried as a board to strike a happy medium, and that's why we've gone and approved the wood-clad before, and in approving your father's house, I'm trying to remember why we would approve pure vinyl windows there, and I'm sorry, without research, I can't.
That's okay.
Is that the house next to Bill Jake's?
That is
Yes.
correct.
Right.
Bill
Yeah,
Jake's
so-
house actually has.
I mean, we struggled with that particular issue, I recall, because there were quite a few changes. The house was a more recent vintage house, I think, than the house that we're talking about right now. Was it 1940? Built in 1940?
It was added on to, I think, originally that, you know what, I'm not going to,
Yeah,
I'll defer to you.
I remember it vaguely, but I think that was a
I don't
case.
think I want to get into that.
Yeah,
Probably not.
I think that was a case where, I mean, we struggled with it, and I think our level of knowledge, and that was prior to Dan Brown coming from the Tennessee Historical Commission to educate us about. We're what's called a certified local government. That is, we adhere to the Secretary of Interior standards, and we receive training periodically in order to keep us educated on those standards. And in that case, I think that maybe we didn't handle it as well as we could have. I mean, that's just a.
I'm not here to pass judgment on that at
Yeah.
all. I was merely
So-
making references.
But I would be interested in knowing. I mean, I know because I've got an older house too, and I don't know when it was built. One paper said 1910, the other one said 1935. I have no clue when it was really built, but and I've looked at windows, and in fact, I had an energy audit done just the other day, and the energy auditor was quite happy with the original windows with the storms. I mean, and as long as they're kept sealed. But again, that's not the a price question. You know, what we have for you is, you know, what you have to answer is what can you afford to do, and so.
And I believe that Jake's house, to my knowledge, has never come before the board. So evidently, when that was
Again,
if they are vinyl
not suggesting
windows.
on anything. I was merely looking for references to.
Yeah. I mean, we you know, in all honesty, it's, sir, you made the reference to what we can afford. We, you know, because of all these other unexpected things like 4,000 pounds of concrete in a bathroom floor upstairs, had to all be jackhammered and taken out.
Yeah.
You know, that's just one thing that we run into among many others, right, Lucas? We're just not going to do anything here that won't look right because we would not be happy with it. We can afford vinyl windows. That's the bottom line, since you mentioned that.
Any further discussion? We have a motion on the floor. If you could repeat your motion.
Well, they were asking what would we approve today, and we would obviously approve wood windows today. It's going to be difficult to approve pure vinyl without some research into other composites and materials.
Okay. Well, we know composite's going to be more, so that means
That
we
won't.
would fall back to wood.
Right.
We're finding tens of thousands of dollars of additional work.
Oh, I understand.
Yeah, no, I know.
I'm sure you do
I'm
in
sure,
your old
and-
homes.
But we're not
Exactly
about
what
to
you're
let
running
this thing
into.
fall apart or look bad. We have a lovely house in Garrison Cove. We love this house, right? And, you know, I would ask if there's no chance of us getting vinyl approved, then we're going to ask for a wood approval. And I would hope that you would approve that.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve wood, and the wood could be pure wood or it could be a wood clad.
I'd second that.
Is there any further discussion? All those
Or
in,
may we amend, it could also be the composite wood.
Sure, if you
Other
ran
than-
into a composite,
if he found a good company that's less expensive.
well, I only can say that we're extremely happy with that composite, the way it looks, the way it
And I'm
feels.
sure if we could afford 30 composite windows, we would probably be happy as
bunch.
well.
And what was proposed about the sat, is it called sash?
Brick mold.
The brick
mold being the wood?
Well,
Well, I think if I can interpret your motion, it's a wood window with a wood brick mold.
Correct.
Okay.
And do we have a second?
That's fine. Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the wood windows with the wood brick mold, please say aye. Aye.
Well,
Those are-
or the wood composite as
Or
well.
the wood composite.
Or the
Wood clad.
wood clad,
Wood
yes.
clad, excuse me. Thank you.
okay.
Those opposed? Motion carries then for the wood windows.
Thank
For
you.
your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm gonna have to go.
Yeah, go. Sorry?
Adjourn us.
Oh, that's right, we have to adjourn this meeting. The chair would welcome, thank you.
You're losing people.
I'm losing people right and left.
We
I
do have
tell you,
one item
we have these
under-
dicey discussions. The chair would welcome a motion to adjourn.
We do have one item under other
Oh.
business.
Oh,
We have
man.
to approve our calendar. We finally, last month we did not actually approve it, so I believe Brenda handed it out to everybody, and we just need approval.
I move that
approved
we
as
approve
submitted?
the calendar.
Do we have a second? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The chair would welcome a motion, if there's not any other business, to adjourn.
I move so.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you.